Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our City Council meeting of April 7th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask our City Clerk to please read the roll.
Vice Mayor Hadeschelt.
Here.
Councilmember Alvord.
Here.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Here, thank you. I'd like to ask Councilmember Rakucci if she would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will you please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to ask our City Clerk if she would please announce the procedures for the meeting.
Good evening. As a response to mitigating the spread of COVID-19, the meeting of the City Council will allow members of the public to participate and address the City Council during the meeting in two ways. Public comment will be taken by the limited number of participants attending the meeting, and public comment may also be submitted by telephone by calling 916-774-5353. If you do call into the meeting, you may be placed on a brief hold until the attendant can answer. The broadcast is delayed up to 30 seconds. When watching at home, when your call is transferred to the City Council, you have 5 minutes in which to speak to a regular agenda item and 3 minutes for items not on the agenda under public comment. I will monitor your time and let you know when your time is expired. When calling, please do not use the speakerphone option as it may create difficulty for the council to hear. And make sure that the volume is turned down on your television to ensure there is no echo or interference. Thank you.
Thank you. First up tonight, we have a proclamation, the Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month, and I believe we have Christina Darty here, and I'd like to ask Councilmember Mendoza if he would do us the honors in presenting the proclamation.
Good evening. Honored to present this proclamation to you this evening.
You can get by the mic.
To the mic.
I'm going to switch
Here, I'll go on this side.
You go on this side. It's not important I'm on camera. It's important you're on camera. All right. So I'm honored tonight to be providing this proclamation to you in recognition of Child Abuse Awareness Month. Whereas in 2017, Placer County investigated 3,251 reports of child abuse and neglect, affecting an average of 2 children per household. And whereas all adults and caregivers have a responsibility as neighbors, community members, and citizens of the community to help create healthy and safe, nurturing environments for children and youth. And whereas safe and healthy childhoods help produce confident, successful, and independent adults. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce and eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of our children. And whereas effective prevention programs succeed because of meaningful connections and partnerships that are created between our agencies, schools, faith-based organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. And Placer County's collaboration is among the most effective in the community. And whereas for over 30 years, Kids First Counseling and Family Resource Centers has functioned as a child abuse prevention council for Placer County with 2 locations strategically located in Roseville and Auburn to serve Western and South Placer County. And whereas wearing a blue ribbon on April 5th and displaying a pinwheel garden in April will serve as a positive reminder that together we can treat and prevent child abuse and neglect and keep children safe. Now, therefore, I am honored on behalf of the Mayor, Krista Bernasconi, and the rest of my council members to present this proclamation to you today in honor of Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. And I want to continue to urge all citizens to join Kids First and its engaged partners as they support each family's efforts to keep themselves and their children safe, healthy, and in a nurturing environment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you on behalf of our children in Placer County, Kids First, and then the Child Abuse Prevention Council. As mentioned, we all can do a part in keeping children safe, and also speaking up and awareness is important. So thank you for making it important this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item 5.2, which is a resolution condemning racism and intolerance against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. I would like to ask Donna Trumbo to please step forward. And I believe that we have two members from Oakmont. We have Michael Kentris, the activities director here, as well as Michelle Mahoney, the assistant principal. And I understand we have two students with us as well, Angela Palapos and Catherine Mendoza. Will you come forward? And our council members, Elverd and Vice Mayor Howdeshout, will present the proclamation. So whomever from your group wants to come forward, they are welcome to. Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
Bruce.
I'll wait for a second.
We're waiting.
How are you?
Hello.
So Bruce has the actual proclamation, and we're going to take turns reading it here. I'll read the first part, and he'll read the other part. I know that several of the council members attended a vigil on March 25th, and I know, speaking from my experience there, it was very moving. It was very eye-opening, and I was very appreciative of being there. And I thought it was something we definitely needed to do and talk about. Our proclamation says that whereas the City of Roseville is committed to inclusion and advancing equity and justice for people of all races, national origins, and ethnicities, and whereas on October the year 2020, the Roseville City Council added a strategy to its 4-year strategic plan under the state and healthy community priority to strengthen inclusiveness and anti-racism efforts in partnership with the community. And whereas since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, violence and harmful xenophobic rhetoric and microaggressions related to the geographic origins of the virus has resulted in a rise in reported hate incidents and crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Island individuals, communities, and businesses. And
Whereas the City of Roseville, in solidarity with the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, condemn any and all forms of discrimination, and will work to ensure that all members of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community are treated with dignity and respect. Whereas the City of Roseville joins other cities and counties in affirming its commitment to the safety and well-being of Asian American visitors. And whereas the City of Roseville recognizes that a resolution or a single action in and of itself will not deter aggression or violent behavior, but rather acknowledge we are all responsible for both individually and collectively for creating and fostering an anti-racist, unbiased community in our words and actions. And now, therefore, on behalf of the mayor and my colleagues on the city council, we recognize that a racially inclusive environment is essential to the health and safety of all residents, and we stand united against hate and violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the City Council. I am Angela Palapos, and my partner, Kath Mendoza, and I are the co-presidents of the Asian Student Union at Oakmont High School. To begin, we would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak, and we are more than grateful to our city leadership for adopting this proclamation. As members of the Asian American community, we are deeply disheartened by the recent events that have unfolded this past year due to COVID-19 and the harmful stereotypes about Asian Americans that have come out from it. It hurts knowing that by simply being Asian American, we risk being targeted with acts of violence. It is of utmost importance that we stand together as a united front in our community to condemn the discrimination and hate being enacted against people of Asian descent. Seeing our people attacked and even killed in broad daylight and fearing we are going to be the next headline is something no person should ever go through. This proclamation is an important step towards bringing our community together in unity. We thank the City Council for helping make the Asian American community feel seen and, most importantly, heard. On behalf of all of the Asian community members and all students in Oakmont, we are honored and thankful for our local leadership on this day. Thank you.
I think the young leaders said it all, right?
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi, thank you so much. City Council, thank you so much. That resolution is absolutely beautiful. And on behalf of the Asian Pacific Islanders and the Asian Americans, we thank you for your commitment to advance the promotion of anti-racism in the city of Roseville. As you know, some of you city council members and the mayor came out to the vigil on March 25th, and it was beautiful, it was peaceful, and there was solidarity, and we thank you for that. And because of that, I have seen since then a network of community members coming together, working with Allies for Black Lives Matter and the Asian community to support in solidarity. What we're trying to do is to bring anti-racism into our community and to work together. And to bring those efforts together just brings tears to my eyes, and I thank you for promoting this act. You know, as a consultant for DEI in this Placer County area, I just want to let you know that partnerships like this is very important, and I am here to help partner with you in any way that I can to promote what your mission and your goals are as it relates to anti-racism efforts and projects. And I just want to share that it is a privilege and a pleasure to be a citizen of Roseville. Thank you all so very, very much. Appreciate you.
Donna, thank you. And Angela and Catherine, that was beautiful. Thank you. We will keep going with our meeting, but don't feel compelled to stay, because I know you probably have homework and other things to do. Thank you, parents and staff, for bringing the students as well. Okay, we will move on to public comment. Now is the time for those to call in for items that are not on the agenda. The number to call in is 916-774-5353. And we will take the public comment in the following order. We will have members of the public in the audience, if there's anyone here tonight that would like to address the council, and then we will take phone calls. So is there anyone tonight in our chambers that would like to address the council on any item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, are there? Okay, we have 2 phone calls, so we'll hear the first one.
Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Hello, my name is Lamills Garrett, and first off, I want to thank you all for the resolution on behalf of the Asian American and Pacific Islander population, and on behalf of the Greater Sacramento NAACP to the AAPI community, we stand with you and honor your presence and the power of you as brothers and sisters. To the City Council, I'm making these comments ahead of time in ask for transparency and ongoing communication to help residents understand where we stand with the difference between policy, which is done by elected officials, and the practice or execution of those policies, which is typically done by our city staff. I've been reaching out in some aspects to some of you regarding housing, jobs, and traffic, and I do know that there's several items regarding housing on the agenda tonight. I look forward to hearing from you on that, but it's important that we be able to hear from our elected officials on what your position is, not what the city staff would like to do or the city staff suggests be done, but what your position is as an elected official regarding housing, the amount of housing being going towards affordable or not, the amount of housing available for seniors on fixed incomes, the amount of housing available for employees of the city of Roseville, for jobs. What are we doing around the local economy in terms of making sure that people who get jobs or businesses that bring jobs here can actually afford the housing? What are we doing to assess fees or not on construction that doesn't afford the housing here? On traffic, are you supporting taxes for us to actually add more lanes to I-80 and 65 or not? And what's your position on that? Where are you with mass transit, with the location of transit, with creating more walkable and bikeable communities? It is so important that we hear from our elected officials on what your position is, not so that you can be attacked, but so that we as citizens can work with you to understand what your position is and figure out how do we execute on those things as one whole city. Currently, I have yet to hear a single policy from any elected official on anything regarding housing, jobs, or traffic. And one of the officials continues to divert to saying, talk to city staff. City staff can't tell me what an elected official would like to do or would like to see or would suggest we do regarding these topics. These are things that you're elected for. These are hard decisions that you get the opportunity to make on behalf of the citizens, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you on what your position is, not what city staff is doing. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Crawford, and I live in Sun City, Roseville. And I want to speak to you tonight about the lack of movement of Placer County as a whole, and specifically also the city of Roseville, on the COVID-19 tier system. As we all know, Roseville and Placer have not moved beyond red this week again. And much of that, I believe, can be attributed to the fact that the Placer County has never adequately and seriously enforced the guidelines. And so one of the problems for us is that there are 15 counties who moved to orange, but Placer County was not among them. The Placer County Board of Supervisors no longer has a weekly or a monthly report. They just have it once a month, and it's off the agenda. And I noticed tonight it's off your agenda. And I believe that that is a mistake. So please look again to see why we are not doing a better job of moving this community forward in the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other calls? Okay. I will close public comment, and I will ask the clerk to read the procedures for approving the consent calendar.
All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine in nature and will be passed by one motion. There'll be no discussion of consent calendar items unless a member of the City Council, staff, or the public requests a specific item be removed. This evening, item 7.15, Campus Oaks Phase 2 Final Map and Subdivision Agreement, will be dropped from this agenda to be relisted at a future date. Mayor Bernasconi, if you'd give a few moments to see if there are any phone calls regarding removing an item from the consent calendar.
Will do. Are there any phone calls so far requesting any item be removed from the consent calendar? A few seconds more. Okay. Do we have a motion?
To remove items 7.15 or drop item 7.15 from the consent calendar and approve the remaining items as recommended. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt?
Yes.
Councilmember Albert? Yes. Councilmember Ragucci? Yes. Councilmember Mendoza?
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, the next item before us is item 8.1, Sierra Vista Specific Plan, West Park Federico Community Facilities District Number 1, Public Facilities Bond Issuance.
Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and City Council members. I'm Dennis Kaufman, your Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer. The purpose of this item tonight is to recommend authorizing the second bond issue for the Sierra Vista Specific Plan, West Park Federico Community Facilities District Number 1. The objective of establishing a Community Facilities District, or CFD, is to create a land-secured financing mechanism to fund construction or acquisition of authorized facilities or services. This district was formed in June of 2019 with council approval, and in November of 2019, the first series of bonds were issued in the amount of about $7.7 million. The maximum authorized indebtedness for this CFD is $90 million. Tonight, we're here to talk about the second series of bonds, which are being issued at the developer's request. The bond issue amount is not to exceed $9.5 million, and the proceeds will be used to construct and acquire public facilities to benefit the district, provide for a deposit to a reserve account and capitalize interest, and to pay the costs of issuance for the bonds. The bonds can be used to fund roadway improvements, sanitary sewer, water, storm drain, other utilities, miscellaneous and soft costs. And the roadways included in this district may include but are not limited to portions of Westbrook Boulevard, Santucci Boulevard, Summerfair Drive, and Federico Drive. In 2020, all of the remaining single-family residential units within the future annexation area were annexed into this district, bringing the totals in the district to about 147 acres and 778 low and medium density units. And of those units, 292 have final maps approved to date. And this next slide shows a map. The diagonal slashed parcels were in the original formation of this CFD, and the parcels with the little circles are the first annexation that has been approved and that will be included in this bond financing. In closing, the staff recommendation is to approve a resolution authorizing the issuance of special tax bonds for the CFD, approving the related agreements, the form of the preliminary official statement, which is used to market the bonds, and other related documents and actions. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Does the council have any questions of Dennis? No?
Dennis, the repayment of these bonds is done how?
Through the collection of special taxes levied on the parcels in the district. So the property owners will pay the taxes to repay the bonds.
And some of those will be the applicant, or the property owner will be the applicant. Some will be residential. It'll show up on their tax bills, right?
Correct.
So it pays for a variety of things that are necessary as part of the development agreement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll open it up to public comment, and now is the time to call in and comment on this item. The phone number is 916-774-5353. And we do not have any calls on this item. I will close public comment. And unless there are any other comments of my colleagues, we'll have a motion, please.
The motion is to adopt Resolution 21-127, a resolution authorizing the issuance of special tax bonds for on behalf of the City of Roseville, SVSP West Park Federico Community Facilities District Number 1, Public Facilities, and approving and directing the execution of a supplemental agreement to fiscal agent agreement and bond purchase agreement, approving the form of preliminary official statement, approving the sale of such bonds, and approving other related documents and actions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci. Yes. Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item 9.1, salary schedules for city council appointed positions and city attorney employment personal services agreement.
Mayor Bernasconi and council members, I'm Stacy Peterson, your Human Resources Director. And this evening I'm presenting item 9.1 to comply with the government code that requires that executive salary adjustments be presented publicly and allow open discussion. City Council recently completed the annual performance evaluation of the city manager, and as part of that review process, a 6% salary adjustment was determined to be warranted based on a total compensation study that was completed by an outside consultant, and you basically reviewing all of the relevant labor market agencies that we compare to, including those agencies that have electric utilities. Staff recommends the salary adjustment be made effective April 10th, which is the start of the next pay period. And the fiscal impact of the salary adjustment for this fiscal year is $5,877, which can be covered by the existing budget. In addition, City Attorney Bob Smith will be retiring on May 28th of this year. And as part of that process, City Council has selected Michelle Scheidenberger to be the next city attorney effective May 29th of this year. Staff recommends that City Council adopt the resolution approving a 4-year employment and personal services agreement with Ms. Scheidenberger and approve the updated city attorney's salary reduced by 1.84% effective May 29th, 2021. Overall, the annual cost of these salary changes will be $18,320. Staff recommends that council adopt the ordinance to approve the city manager and city attorney salary adjustments and approve the resolution to establish a 4-year employment services agreement with Michelle Scheidenberger to appoint her as the next city attorney effective May 29th, 2021. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Stand by, we'll see. Council, colleagues, any questions of Stacy? If there are none, okay.
Stacy, this is always a fun issue for some people about how much money some of our top staff make. And I know these are the two staff members that our council hires and fires. And I was just curious if you could address on the city manager, being that we're a full-service city, are we at the very top now of the pay scale for all of our competitors? I wonder if you could kind of talk on that just a little bit so the community can kind of hear this. I think it's important for them to hear it.
Sure, I can touch on that. And certainly that's one of the reasons I made the point of indicating too, we use an outside consultant. So our consulting group that does the total compensation study for us, they're experts in that review. And we are not at the top of the salary schedule when it comes to our total compensation for city managers, especially those that do have electric utilities. This will still keep us behind. We typically shoot for market median. And certainly other agencies that pay their city managers that oversee such a complex array of services, including electric utilities, are paid higher than in comparison to where we've placed the city manager.
Great. Thank you. That's important.
Any other questions?
I think that was like the main question, that he's even less than at median. He's at a good place, but, it's not the highest and not the lowest.
It's getting more competitive,
Yeah.
so certainly important to try and maintain.
Yes.
Okay, if there are no more questions, I will open it up to public comment. And now is the time for anyone to call in or comment on this item. The phone number is 916-774-5353. Have a call.
Good evening, Mayor.
Hold on just a second. I think we've got a call, and then I'll close public comment after our call.
Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
My name's Lamills Garrett, and I am calling again. First, to congratulate Michelle and on the appointment that you all have made. I'm very glad to see that. Also, to encourage the council that as you move forward, that we do a job of considering, whether it be for all executive roles, to make sure that we have female candidates and or ethnic minority candidates in contention for those roles. So as an example, we recently promoted a new assistant city manager, I think in the last year and a half or so. Regardless of whether they're selected or not, let's make sure our interview process and selection process includes women and or ethnic minorities as a part of the pool to be considered, and that we're actually grooming them and have them in positions to step up for when the amazing job that Dom is doing now is open for the next person. So those are all my comments. Thank you very much. Congratulations again, Michelle.
Any other calls? Okay, I'll close public comment. Does City Council have any other comments or questions?
I'll just make a comment. Very happy to have Bob Smith as our attorney for the time we've had him, and we're looking forward to having Michelle as the acting city attorney too. Very happy for both of you.
Thank you.
And I'll just say on behalf of the council to Michelle, we have 100% confidence in you, as does the staff that works with you. Everybody had positive things to say about you, which really impressed us all. And so we look forward to working with you on a long-term basis, and thank you for everything that you've done. And we look forward to the next several months and years with you in this position. So that's all I have to say, I believe. Any other comments, Rika?
I want to mention also that I know Bob had been grooming you for years for this position, and it was really hard on the council when we found out Bob wanted to retire and didn't want to keep doing this for the rest of his life. But he's definitely prepared you for this, and it was a really, I think, an easy decision for us after just hearing all the feedback of people that support you inside the department, outside too. It was really a fantastic process to go through, and a pretty easy decision when it came down to the end of it. So Yeah, congratulations, and we'll celebrate Bob a future time, I think, here. But
Yes, I would like to thank the council for the honor and privilege of serving as your next city attorney. As I told you when we met, I absolutely love my job and I love working for the city. And it is especially special to me because I am a Roseville resident. And so I do have a personal interest in ensuring council can achieve their goals. And I promise to work cooperatively with the city manager towards the achievement of your goals. And when he gets out of line, I'll nudge him back into place for you. Okay. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our current city attorney, Bob Smith, who is apparently our city manager. Got their
Your nameplates are swapped.
Bob,
It's already taken charge.
yeah, there you go. He got promoted. Bob has hands down been the best boss I've ever had. And he is one of the finest attorneys I've ever had the privilege of knowing. And it really is truly a loss for the city with Bob's retirement. And I'm sorely sad to see him go. We've worked together for almost 20 years. And I would like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your mentorship, your leadership, your guidance, and your patience with me over the years. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here before the council tonight. So thank you very much. I owe you a debt of gratitude and a nice retirement gift. Right? And I also, have to get a shout out to my family, my husband and my 2 children for all their love and support and their patience in having takeout every other Thursday night on Planning Commission meeting nights. Now they're going to have to get used to takeout every other Wednesday night for City Council nights. But don't worry, they prefer takeout to my pork chops, so we're good. So anyways, I look forward to diving in as your next city attorney, May 29th, which happens to be a Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, so maybe it'll
That's
be
great. I'm glad you're going to do
Tuesday, June 1st. Maybe we'll get right to work. But I look forward to working with all you, and thank you again for the trust that you have instilled into me. Thank you.
that.
Well said, Michelle. Thank you. And I know that Bob would like to say something too.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, for those kind words. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm absolutely thrilled that the council selected you. And I know you'll do fabulous going forward. And in my mind, there is nobody else in this state that is more qualified than you are to take this position. I have 110% confidence in you. And I know you will do well by the city. And I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled by the council's choice. And also thank you for your kind comments, and as well as during performance evaluations. And likewise, the council, I've never had a better boss as well. So I've 6 years as your city attorney. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been thoroughly challenging, but that's what makes it enjoyable, and working with each of you. So thank you all for your kind comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Bernasconi, I was negligent in not recognizing that you just got very high praise. You served as the attorney to the Charter Review Committee, which Mr. Garrett served. Yes. For him to call in and speak highly of you just speaks volumes of the work you do to serve our entire community and to listen to the viewpoints. I like to say we're leadership that listens, right? And you exemplify that. And so for him to call in and endorse yours, I think carries an enormous amount of weight in our community. And folks don't know, I forgot that, you spent 5 years in clerking for a federal judge.
Yeah, four years, yes.
4 years, 5 years, 4 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 10.1.
Oh, actually, we have to make a motion.
Oh, boy, all that glowing, I just figured it was a done deal, but okay, sorry.
Don't go.
So moved.
Second.
No, she's got to read it.
We're adopting the associated resolutions and the associated resolution and the associated ordinances, and authorizing the mayor to execute it on behalf of the city of Roseville.
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
Yes. Aye.
Councilmember Alvord.
yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you, and congratulations, Michelle. Okay, now we will move on to item 10.1, Emergency Rental Assistant Grant Agreement and Budget Adjustment.
Evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of City Council. I'm Tricia Isom, Housing Manager in the Economic Development Department. Tonight, I'll be presenting the Emergency Rental Assistance contract between Placer County and the City of Roseville. In January 2021, the United States Treasury Department established the Emergency Rental Assistance, or ERA program, which made available $25 billion to assist renter households unable to pay rent and utilities due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Placer County applied for funding and received notice of an ERA grant in the amount of $11.8 million. The City of Roseville was not able to apply for this funding as the Treasury only made it available for jurisdictions with populations greater than 200,000. In recognition of the large portion of the population residing in Roseville and of the effectiveness of Roseville's administration of housing programs, Placer County requested that Roseville Housing Division help distribute $5.1 million on behalf of Roseville residents. Placer County created the Rent Help Placer program to distribute grant funds and help prevent housing instability and potentially evictions. Qualified households include renters who gross 80% of the area median income or less and are unable to pay their rent or utilities due to a financial hardship caused by COVID-19. Unfortunately, some households will not qualify, but HUD did just adjust the income limits for the program as of April 1st, 2021. This will increase the number of households that will qualify for the program. The Roseville Housing Division will manage Placer County's Rent Help Placer program and assist individuals renting in the city limits of Roseville. The program will allow for rental and utility arrears to be paid in full from March of 2020 to present. It will also be able to pay for current rent and utilities for up to 3 months at a time. Although the program does not set a limit on the amount landlords and utility providers can receive, applicants are only eligible for a maximum of 15 months of assistance. The initial application period ends April 30th, 2021. If funds are not exhausted during the initial release, applications may open once again in the future. Placer County residents should visit renthelpplacer.com in order to submit a request for application. Those without access to the internet may call Placer County's 211 system by dialing 211 or 833-342-5211 for assistance with their request. The Treasury Department program guidelines provide for priority application processing for renters that meet specific preferences, including households grossing 50% of the area median income or less, and those with a household member that has been unemployed for 90 consecutive days prior to application submission. Non-priority applications will be waitlisted until those with priority status have been assisted. We have had a great response to this program so far. As of today, we've received over 350 referrals, but as of last weekend, we're averaging about 50 applications per day. So there's an uptick. Placer County drafted the grant agreement to establish program guidelines and use of ERA funding. The Board of Supervisors approved the contract at their March 9th board meeting, and the city received a copy of the contract on March 10th. That was after the March 17th council agenda had been finalized. The contract was signed by the city manager pursuant to Executive Order 20-03 on March 16th, as it was important for the contract to be executed prior to the program start date of March 18th. Tonight, we are recommending that City Council adopt a resolution to ratify the grant agreement with Placer County to administer the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, as well as approve a budget adjustment in the amount of $5,128,073.61. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
My colleagues have any questions of Tricia?
I know that our housing department is very stretched right now, and I understand there's some funding that comes with this to try to help alleviate so we don't just pile on a bunch of extra work for you. I was wondering if you could just address that.
Yes, so we do, out of the $5 million, we get $350,000 for administration. So I'm working on the program. I have a housing analyst that's working on the program. We have 2 part-time staff people that are working on the program, and I'm actually looking to bring in a retired annuitant because, again, things are getting busy. So one of the staff people is actually from Electric, which is wonderful because they'll be able to access the utilities and just, take in the money, which will help things along.
Thank you.
Tricia, thank you for your report. We have a lot of things that are on consent, and we review those thoroughly. And I noticed that on our consent agenda this week, we had item 7.12, COVID homeless prevention assistance, and that's going to help 200, right? So this will be in addition to those 200. And I think we had Mr. Garrett called in earlier and asked, was focused on housing and what we're doing. And I would point anyone to some of the information that you prepare for us to review so we can understand. And I think there was another item in our agenda on the annual report, item 7.1, which is the 2020 Housing Element Annual Progress Report. And I think on page 3, but on page 3 of the report of required information, per the Health and Safety Code, is a breakdown of the success that we've had, that you've documented, and we've shown in various infographics. So I just wanted to call the public's attention to that, and that while you're here presenting one element that will help needed families, there are other elements that you're working on as well. So thank you.
Any other comments?
Maybe one, Mayor, following what Bruce said, is you're bringing this information, and this one here is a presentation, but you wouldn't have, or Placer County wouldn't have applied, or many times applied if the council didn't want it. So I just want people to know in the audience, when we have these, it's sometimes it could be staff driven, which is great, and sometimes it's council driven, and sometimes it's both, because we both feel that there's a need and have it done. And so what you're seeing here is working on policy on housing, and many times there's other items too. So this is council in action. And thank you, Bruce, for bringing up so many things that are on consent that you don't, that are very important. But if we said them all, we'd be here all night too.
Councilwoman Rakucci, City Manager Dominic Case, if I just can insert for a second, everything we do is council-driven. Everything we do is policy-driven. And so this certainly falls in line with our current policy and goals as a city council. And so staff works at that direction. And this is an execution, and it's a great example of staff carrying out the council goals.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments of Trish at this time, I'll open it up to public comment. And now is the time for anyone to call or come to the podium. The phone number is 916-774-5353. I believe at this point we have one caller we'll take.
Good evening. If you state your name, you may make your comments now.
Hi, this is Lamille Garrett again. On the current item, first off, I want to thank Tricia for the ongoing work that she does with regards to housing in all aspects and trying to take care of the residents of Roseville. With regards to that, in addition, this is an example of something that has come down from the federal government, if I understand, that the county took advantage of as a result of that the city now gets to use. This is not an example, to my understanding, of policy. Policy says that we, as the city of Roseville, would like to see a given number of residents actually have access to affordable housing, or a given number of employees that actually work within the city who are seeking housing will get relief or the opportunity to work, to live here, not just get on the highway and work here and drive here to get to work. We desperately need more of these types of things, but per the consent calendar, these are examples of ongoing hodgepodge that we pull together to react to things, and we're poorly proactive. And policy is about being proactive in terms of where we want the city to go. And we continue to build housing that addresses people who can afford a $400,000 house. However, those who work at the casino, those who work at the retail locations, those who work in the restaurant industry, those who work in all of those locations mostly cannot afford to live here. Policy needs to address those things. So the next time we open a grocery store, think about who's going to work in those grocery stores and whether or not they can afford to live here. The next time we open up another strip mall, think about who's going to work there and can they afford to live here. And those are the types of things that Tricia does a phenomenal job of, Laura does a phenomenal job of, in terms of trying to do their best with the lack of policy given to them. We need more strategy, policy coming from City Council to help us address these things proactively. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no other calls. I will close public comment. Council have any other questions or deliberation before we have a motion?
I just wanted to mention, in case our viewers at home missed it on the early presentation, that the way that you can get more information on this is by dialing 211. I know sometimes people join late. We're getting into the dinner hour and whatnot, so I just wanted to make sure that I reemphasize that. So if you want to get more information on this and to get possibly qualified for this program, 211 is how you would do that. So just wanted to reemphasize that.
Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay, I have a motion.
The motion is to adopt Resolution 21-121, approving a grant agreement by and between the City of Roseville and Placer County Department of Health and Human Services, and ratifying the city manager's execution of it on behalf of the City of Roseville, and to adopt ordinance number 6344 of the City of Roseville, authorizing certain amendments to the fiscal year 2020-21 budget and declaring this ordinance to be immediately effective as an appropriation measure. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddishelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Alvord.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci. Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Trish, for bringing that forward. Item 10.2, long-term pension and other post-employment benefits liabilities update.
Good evening again, Mayor Bernasconi and council members. Dennis Kaufman, your Assistant City Manager and CFO. Tonight I'll present a brief update on the city's CalPERS pension and OPEB obligations. OPEB is the acronym for Other Post-Employment Benefits, which is retiree medical benefits. This update is an important part of our community engagement as part of the budget development process because pension and OPEB are significant employee benefit costs and their related liabilities are significant on the city's balance sheet. For both pension and OPEB, I'll provide a brief background, a status update, and mention a few next steps for each. Like most cities, retirement costs are one of Roseville's largest expenses. Pension payments are a legal obligation. The city has to pay its contributions to CalPERS. Roseville and its employees have been proactive in addressing pension costs over the past decade. Reduction options that have been offered by the state legislature and CalPERS have been implemented by Roseville. And employees contribute their full share of the cost based on CalPERS' rules. An important driver about pension costs is that state law prohibits retroactive benefit reductions. There have been a series of court rulings establishing the California rule, which means that the pension offered to an employee when they're hired becomes a vested right protected by constitutional contract law, and I find it interesting that 12 other states recognize the California rule. Pension benefits can only be cut if the reduction is offset by a comparable new benefit, which would erase any savings. And the city continues to follow pending court cases, which have the potential to clarify or redefine that California rule. The state legislature passed the Public Employees Pension Reform Act, known as PEPRA, back in 2012, which requires new reduced pension formulas for all new employees hired on or after January 1st of 2013. CalPERS introduced a smoothing plan after the Great Recession to gradually increase employer contributions with the goal to fully fund pension liabilities in 30 years and to reduce volatility for employer contributions. And most recently, CalPERS changed the amortization schedule to require employers to pay off new losses over 20 years instead of 30 years, which will help us reach a higher funded status faster, but has the implication to increase the city's contributions. This slide shows the effects of the reduced benefit formulas under PEPRA and the makeup of our workforce based on the most recent actuarial valuation. This table reports the percentage of payroll attributable to the normal costs for each plan and the number of active employees in each plan. The normal cost is the cost incurred each year for that year of service to fund an employee's future pension based on a set of actuarial assumptions. You can see that the normal cost percentages are significantly lower for the new PEPRA pension benefits compared to the classic groups. And you can see that almost 50% of the city's miscellaneous employees have been hired after 2012 and have the reduced benefit and lower cost PEPRA formula. Miscellaneous is the CalPERS name for all employees other than sworn police and fire employees. The safety groups have hired fewer new PEPRA employees, but you can see their numbers have grown too. On average, funding of CalPERS pensions comes from three sources. 58% comes from CalPERS investment earnings, 29% from employers like the city, and 13% from employees. Achieving the currently 7% investment return target is critical to maintain this funding allocation. Less investment income earned by CalPERS means more costs paid by employers like the city to fund the pension obligations. This table summarizes the city's annual contributions for the CalPERS safety plan for sworn police and fire employees and the miscellaneous plan for all other city employees. You can see that the annual cost in dollars and as a percentage of payroll is increasing from fiscal year 2021 to fiscal year 21-22. The most significant factor in this increase was the CalPERS board's decision to lower the discount rate, which is also the investment return assumption, from 7.5% to 7%. This lower investment earnings assumption reflects the pension system's lower expectation of investment returns in the future. This means that employers like the city have to contribute more to fund the pension benefits. The next three slides summarize the city's pension liabilities, assets in the CalPERS trust to pay the liabilities, and the unfunded liability based on the latest actuarial valuation. For the miscellaneous plan, the unfunded liability is $266 million with a funded ratio of 63.4%, which is slightly higher than the previous year. For the safety plan, the unfunded liability is $121 million with a funded ratio of 66.8%, which is also slightly higher than the previous year. And this slide combines the plans to report a total unfunded liability of $387 million with a combined funded ratio of 64.6%, also slightly better than the year before. Actuaries tell us, though, that a healthy funded ratio is between 80 and 100%. This next table presents the CalPERS contribution rates for the current fiscal year, next year, and forecasts 5 years into the future based on data provided by CalPERS. As you can see, the contribution rate as a percentage of pay continues to increase until fiscal year 23-24. The reason is that CalPERS smooths or phases in contribution increases to help employers like the city by providing time to adjust to higher contributions and by reducing the contribution volatility. CalPERS decided in 2016 to reduce that discount rate from 7.5% to 7% and to phase that change in over 3 fiscal years. Each of those changes had a 5-year ramp-up period, so the 2018 actuarial evaluation set the contributions for the current year, fiscal year 2021, and then we have 4 more years to ramp up to where the change plateaus for 15 more years. You can see that the contribution rate as a percentage of pay stops increasing, or actually decreases slightly in fiscal year 26 or fiscal year 27. But that assumes no more changes to the assumptions and that reality lines up perfectly with the actuarial assumptions, including that the investments earn 7% return every year. I've added this graph to our annual presentation to provide a long-term forecast, still based on data provided by CalPERS. This graph focuses only on the payments for the unfunded liability portion. Although you saw in the previous table that the percentage of pay is scheduled to plateau in about 6 years, the payments against the unfunded liability are scheduled to peak in about 2030. While the downward slope beyond 2030 looks promising, I added the green bars to show the impact of the fiscal year 2019-2020 investment return of 4.7%, which fell short of the 7% assumption. We've had 2 years now in a row of investment returns below the 7% assumed rate of return. And when this happens, an actuarial loss is recognized that the city has to make up for. In the case of the 4.7% return in fiscal year 1920, attributable to the COVID-19 downturn, The city's contributions to CalPERS will increase by about $400,000 per year for 5 years, starting in fiscal year 22-23, and then cost $2 million a year extra for 15 years. Those were the amounts I used in the green bars in the previous graph. These estimated increases were derived using the new CalPERS Pension Outlook tool that's available on their website with Roseville-specific data. I also want to mention that the CalPERS board and staff this year will be revisiting that investment return assumption, also called the discount rate, in 2021. City staff are paying close attention to those discussions because if they decide to lower the discount rate, that again would increase the city's costs beyond what you have seen is already forecasted. Finally, we intend to recommend steps toward the City Council's strategic plan goal to address the city's pension liability after the general fund reserve targets are met. Staff will be recommending with the proposed budget to increase the general fund reserve targets, reserve levels up to the targets, and then to address the pension liabilities, staff will recommend making additional discretionary payments to CalPERS to lower future pension costs and increase the funded status. For example, depending on which layer of the liability we decide to pay off early, for example, a $5.6 million additional discretionary payment to CalPERS could reduce future general fund pension costs by nearly $400,000 a year for 20 years. Staff are also discussing the idea of pension reserves using IRS Section 115 trusts to set aside funding for future pension costs. Staff would return to City Council with more details before recommending that option. For OPEB, or retiree medical benefits, the city established an OPEB trust fund to set aside resources to fund the city's obligation and to invest those resources to earn investment income to help pay for the benefits, similar to pensions. The city also reduced retiree health benefits for tiers of new employees. The City Council adopted a formal OPEB funding policy to continue making contributions towards fully funding the obligation over the next 20 years. And the city hires an OPEB actuary every 2 years to measure the city's liability and calculate the actuarially determined contribution that we use to pay benefits and to increase the funded status of the plan. For the city's OPEB plan, the unfunded liability is $122 million with a funded ratio of 43.8% as of the most recent actuarial valuation report. If we measured today, the funded status of that plan would be well over 50% funded. We will be engaging a consultant soon to perform an updated actuarial evaluation as of June 30th of 2021. This slide summarizes the balance in that OPEB trust fund investment portfolio at the end of last fiscal year when it was at about $109 million. And the investment earnings assumption or discount rate assumption that we use for the OPEB plan is 6.25%. And you can see at the table in the middle of this slide that since inception, when the city established this trust fund over a decade ago, the portfolio has earned above that 6.25%, almost 7.5% over that time period. And as of the end of December 31st, 2020, a few months ago, the balance in that trust fund investment portfolio was nearly $130 million, reflecting the recovery in the financial markets from COVID and the city's continued contributions to the OPEB trust fund. This graph from the most recent actuarial report has two great takeaways. First, the red line represents the assets in the OPEB trust fund growing and how they've grown since the trust was established from both city contributions and investment income. And second, the liability that started out in 2009 was split about 50-50 between active employees and retirees, but now is closer to 2/3 of the liability representing retirees and less from actives, and that's because those new tiers that were created for new employees have really limited the growth of the liability related to active employees. So to close with final thoughts, the city and its employees have taken prudent steps to address the city's pension and OPEB costs and long-term liabilities. The funded ratios are slowly increasing for the CalPERS pension plans. The funded ratio is increasing faster for the OPEB plan, with its path to reach full funding in 20 years or less. Related to OPEB, staff are working on a contract amendment with the investment management firm to lower their fees. We're working on a revised OPEB investment policy to bring back to the City Council. We're working on cleanup revisions to the OPEB ordinance and an RFP to revisit the investment management of the city's OPEB trust fund. The proposed budget for next year will follow the council-adopted OPEB and pension funding policies. And as I mentioned, one of the City Council's strategic goals is to address pension liabilities after the general fund reserve targets are met. And toward that goal, staff will recommend additional discretionary payments to CalPERS in the proposed budget to lower future pension costs and increase the funded status of our plan. I want to thank this council and past councils for their prudent management of these long-term liabilities, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Council, do we have any questions for Dennis?
I had a question. So in your slide presentation, you had said in 2019 and 2020, we had low returns. We weren't hitting, I think it was 7% is what you said we should be hitting. So I know you mentioned the market fluctuation, but I'm just going to make an assumption and correct me if I'm wrong, but is part of that that miss also because just as part of the conscious and conservative investment strategies that they tend to invest in very low risk, within the market. So therefore, even if the market did adjust, we wouldn't get the gains necessarily as a medium or a high risk type of investment.
I believe most investment professionals would say that CalPERS is not necessarily conservative in their investment program. They do invest in a mix of equities and bonds and a variety of other types of investments. And so that 7% investment assumption, as they are discussing it this year, one of my concerns is they may be recommending to lower it because they may want to invest the dollars in the trust fund more conservatively. But right now, when the pandemic started in early March and the markets experienced a significant drop, the assets in the pension trust fund experienced a significant drop. And so we were lucky that that investment return is measured on June 30th each year because that big market drop happened in March and came back pretty significantly by June 30th and allowed us to have a positive return of 4.7. It could have been much worse because had that been measured at the end of March or the end of April, it would have been a lot worse.
Thank you. That was for my education. I was just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, and I'm following along with what Tracy said, because I was sitting there looking, said the CalPERS board is going to be meeting shortly, and because, it was at 7.5%, then it went to 7%, and it's looking like at 4%. How low is low? I mean, I'm worried about being solvent, and I know that, they're looking at different investments and what they feel that are prudent, but I'm just seeing how all other cities and the rest of us look at how CalPERS functions for us.
The CalPERS board has a very difficult job ahead of them because they are responsible for maintaining the stability of the pension system and being able to make the pension payments to the pensioners. At the same time, they know that the employers, like the city of Roseville, have limited resources. And so if they lower that discount rate because they want to invest more conservatively or because they think that 7% investment assumption is not achievable, at least in the next decade or two, they realize that that's going to require us to contribute more. And it's a balancing act because they know by requiring employers to pay more, there are a lot of agencies throughout the state that are really going to have financial difficulties.
How much did they ever pay? You said 7.5%. Had they at one time been even higher? Or
it had. I believe it was 8 or 8.5.
Once upon a time in a faraway place?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions of Dennis?
It's a great presentation.
A number of questions. Certainly this was when the Community Priorities Advisory Committee met in 2018. This was certainly one of the things they were focused on. And I think last year, maybe even the year before, the governor recognized the unfunded liability and put money, because this is every jurisdiction, whether it's a city, whether it's a county, whether it's a school. Well, schools are in CalSTRS, but whether it's a special district, there's a water district, a variety of folks that have to pay these. This year, there's a windfall, an unexpected windfall at the state. Do you have any sense that the governor may take some of that in his May revision and put it toward unfunded pension liabilities?
I have not heard, but I do know that the state looks at both their unfunded pension liability as well as their OPEB liability, which is also very large. And you're right, about 2 years ago, I believe the state deposited an additional $6 billion into their CalPERS pension trust as an additional contribution. So they may very well be considering that.
And I was furiously writing notes. So let me see if I've got this right. You said for an investment of $5.6 million, we could save $400,000 for 20 years, so that's $8 million, right? So
Correct.
we could, we could make some money there, right?
Or save on some interest costs.
Yeah. No, thank you.
So I think that this is can be the downside of when you hand your money over to somebody else to manage. Are there any other cities who don't use or use something else other than CalPERS? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So making the additional discretionary payments is one way to increase the funded status and reduce our pension costs, because the money would go right into the pension trust fund, and the actuaries would take that money and essentially pay off one layer of the amount that we owe. Another option that a lot of agencies are looking into is establishing these Section 115 trusts. And some agencies do a little bit of both. And I think we ought to consider doing a little bit of both. But how that works is it's a separate investment account. Coincidentally, CalPERS just created one, so if we wanted to do a Section 115 trust but not put the money into the main CalPERS trust, they would hold it separately. But there are a lot of other private investment companies that are also interested in helping us establish these Section 115 trusts. And we've talked to a couple departments who have enterprise funds within the city who may be interested in doing that as well. And the idea there is you set this money aside in a separate legally restricted trust. It can only be used for pension costs in the future, but you can draw from that account when you need it, whether it's because of some future pension cost increase or because we go through a significant revenue downturn. And that's one way to continue making the required pension contributions in a tough time. And so those are some of the reasons other agencies are creating those trusts.
Okay, thank you.
Great question.
Okay, I will open this up to public comment. Now is the time for anyone to call in, 916-774-5353. And at this time, we don't have anyone calling in, and we don't have anyone here in the audience that would like to address this item. So I will close public comment. And if the council has any other comments, questions, if not, we'll have our clerk read the motion, please.
This is an informational only item, so no council action is required.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Okay, item 10.3, Youth Development Fund Status Report. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and members of the council. I'm Jill Geller, your Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director, and I'm happy to be here tonight to provide you an update on our youth development programs and the Youth Development Fund. Our youth development programs consist of adventure clubs, which are before and after school recreation-based childcare programs located at 19 elementary schools in Roseville. 16 of these are schools in the Roseville City School District, and 3 are in the Dry Creek School District. It's not uncommon for local park and recreation agencies to provide these services. As a matter of fact, the National Recreation and Park Association reported that in 2020, 57% of all park and recreation agencies nationwide provide after-school programs, and that percentage is even higher in communities the size of Roseville. Youth Development also provides ACES programs, which is an after-school education and safety program subsidized by the Roseville City School District. This program is conducted at Kirby and Woodbridge Elementary Schools. These 2 schools are Title I schools, where 50% or more of the students qualified for free and reduced lunches. The ACES programs provide homework assistance and enrichment activities like art and sports to ensure that at-risk youth have access to these services. Also offered our preschool programs at 11 school sites, as well as at Maidu Community Center and the Roseville Sports Center. Prior to COVID, enrollment was high in our programs. Many sites had waiting lists. We actively served nearly 1,500 children in adventure clubs and 373 children in our preschool programs. Also prior to COVID, the Youth Development Fund had a very healthy fund balance. As a matter of fact, at the end of fiscal year 19, it had its highest fund balance in history at more than $900,000. In our last non-COVID fiscal year, which was also fiscal year 19, youth development programs brought in more than $7 million in revenues. At the onset of COVID, we saw school closures, and therefore the closure of adventure clubs and preschools. These programs were suspended beginning March 13th of 2020. Our staffing model for the youth development programs have always been a mix of full-time and temporary staff, with the majority being temporary staff. As soon as it was realized we would not soon be resuming these programs, we laid off more than 500 temporary part-time staff, effective March 28th of 2020. Having no idea how long the closures would continue, we retained our full-time staff who worked on various tasks, such as continuing their curriculum planning, disinfecting our adventure clubs in preparation for programming to resume, planning for summer programs, and assisting with other department projects, such as posting signage in parks, which we were changing quite frequently, assisting at the libraries, and more. There was no shortage of work to be done. We began to bring back some of our temporary staff as summer programs were allowed by state guidance. However, these summer programs were far fewer than we'd held in previous years and with lower attendance. Our before and after school programs resumed when school started this past fall. Both Roseville and Dry Creek school districts began the school year with distance learning only. Working parents desperately needed childcare when their children were distance learning. This meant that our staff were providing not only recreational experiences and before and after school care, but facilitating the school day distance learning process as well. Because of lower enrollment and because the children were coming and going to our program from home rather than from their school, we were able to consolidate locations during this time. And we had children from 2 or 3 different schools at a single adventure club site. These measures were in an effort to minimize our net revenue losses during this time. Staff's work was amazing. Within a single adventure club site, there were students of different grade levels, from different schools, with a variety of class schedules and start times, who all needed assistance to make sure they were zooming into the right class at the right time, staying on task, and completing assignments. For those of you who may have had to support your child's distance learning efforts, imagine doing so for a room full of children who are all on different schedules and in different grades. Add to this that many of these children were kindergartners who had never experienced school before, let alone the virtual school experience. It was a lot for our staff to undertake. And I'd like to say it was seamless, but it wasn't. There were many bumps and hurdles along the way, but staff persevered and provided a quality program for which we received so many thanks from parents, with some stating, "I just don't know what I'd do without you." You can see from the information on this slide that schools moved from one model to another, from distance learning to hybrid to in-class. Our staff was constantly shifting and adapting to meet the school's needs. And schools continue to have an abbreviated school day even today. So we are still providing before and after care for longer hours than we did pre-COVID. And I once again have to commend staff, as they've constantly modified, adapted, and changed the program as we closed, then opened, and moved through the various changes in school schedules. There's been continuous planning and evaluation of the programs to ensure that we maximized revenue production while keeping our expenses at a minimum. Adventure Club and preschool programs continue to be impacted by COVID in many ways. State COVID guidance requires that the students remain in consistent cohorts of no more than 14 children at all times, and there is to be no mixing of these groups. This means that our Adventure Club spaces can accommodate only a fraction of the number of participants we previously did. Many of our Adventure Club buildings have 2 rooms. So a building that at one time might have accommodated 60 to 80 children can now have 28 because we can only have 14 children in each space. Lower staff-to-student ratios, the need for increased sanitation supplies and practices, the requirement for each child to have his or own separate supplies, and providing our program for extended hours makes these programs look quite different and also significantly affects our bottom line. And even as we've been up and running, we have had intermittent closures throughout the school year due to COVID exposures and quarantines. These closures result in additional revenue loss, as families are issued refund when the program is closed for these reasons. And these impacts are ongoing, with our most recent exposure occurring just last week. I feel like I'm painting a picture of doom and gloom, and that's really not my style. So I want to emphasize the positive fact that we have continued to provide a critical service to hundreds of families during this school year. Having said that, our enrollment is currently at approximately 1/3 of pre-COVID enrollment. You can see on this slide the comparison of our pre-COVID enrollment numbers to the numbers we're currently serving. We attribute this lower enrollment to many factors, which might include the fact that we originally required full-time weekly enrollment due to restrictions at that time. Capacity limitations meant that we couldn't accommodate as many children. Many parents and guardians continue to work from home and don't need childcare at this time, and a host of other factors. So all of this has definitely had a negative impact on our Youth Development Fund's financial position. When schools closed the last quarter of fiscal year 20, we had zero ability to generate revenue, and our $900,000 fund balance was completely depleted. We actually finished the year with a negative balance of $70,000. The financial success of this program is in large part due to the volume we serve, and the previous slide displayed how this volume has decreased during this school year. Since reopening this fall, due to the many factors I've mentioned, we are running at an operational deficit. Additionally, the program has ongoing expenses that amount to approximately $50,000 each month or $600,000 per year, which include loan payments, retiree medical benefits, workers' compensation, and support to other city departments. At this time, it's projected that the Youth Development Fund will end fiscal year 21 with a negative balance of $3.3 million. Throughout this past year, we've made many efforts to minimize this financial impact. We increased program fees. We modified our staffing plan as best we could given the guidelines. I should note that during the distance learning section, the Roseville City School District provided some teacher aides at their cost to assist with our efforts. We've limited our per-child supply expenses, and we've partnered with the school districts to provide lunches and snacks as required by licensing, thus reducing our costs for these items. And our efforts continue. There is a plan for recovery, and I'm sure the question on everyone's mind is, when will this program become financially stable? Well, we expect COVID to still affect our enrollment and our operations in the coming school year, and our fiscal year 22 budget reflects that. This graph shows our revenue and expense projections with enrollment returning to pre-pandemic numbers in fiscal year 23. At that time, we will be very close to revenues covering all program expenses. And beyond fiscal year 23, you can see that youth development revenues are expected to exceed expenses. I should also tell you that these calculations were done prior to yesterday's announcement of a potential return to normal business operations June 15th. If we can operate in a pre-COVID fashion in the coming school year, our return to financial sustainability will come even sooner. There are some options for us to expedite this recovery, which we plan to implement. First of all, it goes without saying that we will continue to closely monitor child care guidelines, and as they loosen, we'll change our services accordingly. We'll continue to closely monitor our staffing levels and increase their flexibility as guidelines allow. Because enrollment is lower in our before-school programs, we're considering an after-school only option if that would prove to limit our financial losses in the coming year. We'll be increasing the registration fee and weekly program fees in the coming year. And we'll be offering additional preschool programs, and we're introducing a kindergarten readiness program this summer, which we expect will be very successful. And as I mentioned, should our enrollment numbers be higher next year than we've projected, our recovery timeline advances. Lastly, as it pertains to our revenue losses, we're hopeful to learn that upon clarification, funding from the American Rescue Plan Act can replace the revenues lost due to COVID-19. It is a fact that the fund's current and projected financial positions are the direct result of the pandemic. There are no other factors to which we can attribute this. And we're seeking other sources to assist in covering this revenue loss as well. So that concludes my presentation. We're requesting no action from the council at this time. This item is for your information only, but I'm happy to stand for your questions.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions of Jill? We'll start with Councilmember Alvord.
Hi, Jill. I remember when this was happening, how, well, everybody was freaking out, all the departments, but I know it was a really tough decision to let the part-time staff go and to decide what to do with the full-time staff, and I'm really glad you're able to retain them, because I know the potential loss of experienced staff, losing them and then hoping to rehire them back later is a huge risk. And so it was nice to keep them busy and keep them active. I know a lot of the videos that were made, I heard parents talking about how great they were. I mean, they did a really nice job of as best they could. I thought that was fantastic. And I also wanted to mention that the adventure clubs are a real big reason, I think, that makes they add to our school system. We have a great education system in Roseville, and it's very attractive to people that live here and that want to move here. I think the Adventure Club adds to that. That's a really nice benefit that people really appreciate. And so I'm really hoping this American Rescue Plan can help us and refund some of that, because that is a tremendous loss. But, it's I just hope we come out of it. Again, it's a great asset to our community. I know they really appreciate that. So thank you for the report.
Well, I want to pick up where Councilman Alvord left off. I'm stunned that this, I think your words were, we're hoping that an interpretation of the American Rescue Plan would, it is clear that these are impacted. So can you elaborate on, or maybe Assistant CFO Kaufman can help me understand why something as plain as the nose on my face.
Just quickly before our CFO jumps in, I would like to add something. One, I think he'll talk about the federal treasury and the accounting program. But one of the things I think, and it wasn't specifically mentioned, but one of the areas in particular that we're looking at is we had roughly $1 million surplus going into COVID. And one of the obvious actions we'd like to see is that surplus was spent as a result of the pandemic. And what's unclear is that going to be able to be recaptured versus also the lost revenue.
Because there was adding up 900,000 plus more, so I'm going to say 1.5. Just you know more the number, right? You had the reserve fund that got wiped out, and then you had more on top. Seems like it all should be eligible.
I agree. We're waiting for clarification from the U.S. Treasury on how they're going to define lost revenue for us to claim. But in this particular program, even if we can't couch it all under lost revenue, I'm also hoping we can define some of it as expenditures that we incurred directly related to COVID and its economic impacts because of the families that we've helped with this program. And so I'm hopeful between lost revenue and claiming the expenditures that we'll be able to replenish the fund and the reserve that we had pre-COVID.
Because you have this, I don't know how to artfully say it, but if you raise registration fees, you risk losing revenue, right?
Right.
So this will all come back to us as part of our budget process for final, and you'll have more information at that point in time.
And with our recommendations for how to spend the rescue plan funding. Correct.
Right. Yeah, and I'll just say that, Shelley spent the better part of 10 years unlocking the door at 7 o'clock in the morning for parents who had to get to work and locking the door at 6 o'clock at night. And that was pre-pandemic. And that was, working with, a number of kids was challenging enough. I can only have a greater appreciation for, how your folks did that in a pandemic protocol environment.
Any other comments, questions?
Jill, great presentation, and Bruce mentioned it, or Vice Mayor Havishelt mentioned it, and I'm married to a teacher. She's been teaching 21 years, and I see what she does day in and day out, pre-COVID. And it's just sad. It's another example of just how devastating in other areas besides just, health that this virus has been. And I'm glad you emphasized a lot of the things you did in your presentation, but the value to our community just can't be measured in a presentation. And I think it's important for our viewers at home to see a lot of the behind the scenes. They see what their children receive. They see the benefits that their children come home with. They see the benefits that you give back to them as far as time and resources and education and opportunity. But all of that comes with a cost, and that isn't always monetary. A lot of that is planning. A lot of that is time given. A lot of that is time we don't give back. So I'm glad you emphasized a lot of that, and I want to echo what Vice Mayor Havishelt and Councilmember Alvord said. I mean, just tip of the hat to your staff, and I think everybody's thankful for the work they do, on the front line and behind the scenes. It's extremely important, and I can't wait for us to start getting back to a point where this is fiscally profitable again and can stand on its own, because it needs to be here.
Thank you.
I echo what all's been said, but I think another thing is that the Adventure Club has given some stability to the kids. They've got some place to be before school or after school and during school, if they have school. I really feel during this time it's the mental health and the emotional help of the parents too, and the teachers, the whole thing, that you've been doing an excellent job. I'm looking forward to when we can get back soon, very soon, because the kids and the families need it. And I thank you very much, and your staff, for doing what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo the comments of my colleagues. I think that our child care program and our preschool programs are what adds quality of life to our residents. That I don't know that we, many people know that we're in the child care preschool business, but if we weren't, I think it would be an erosion of what Roseville is. And as a working parent, I was very thankful during the times where I could drop off my kids there. So would be in favor of anything that we can do that would make the program whole again. So I know this is an information item, so unless there's anything else, I will open it up to public comment. I did hear the phone ring. The number to call in now is 916-774-5353, and if anyone is here tonight to discuss this item, but it doesn't look like there's any, but we do have one phone call we'll put through.
Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Crawford, and I'm calling to support any activity that the city wants to take on behalf of the Child Development Program. I've had grandchildren in the program. It's been an absolutely wonderful addition to their preschool and before and after school life, and I think that it clearly is within the overall scope of the CARES funding, as well as the most recent funding that just came down from the federal government. And if there is any need to talk to our federal legislators about how to make sure that this kind of program and the costs that this program has incurred can be reimbursed by the funding that's coming down, I think that would be an absolutely perfect way to restate and put this program back on a solid financial footing. So I really appreciate your report. I appreciate the hard work of all of the staff and administration and the city's support for this over the years. And I think that it would be an absolutely wonderful ability for the city to be able to recoup this loss through the COVID-19 CARES funding and the recent Recovery Act. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more caller.
Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Lisa Larkin, Roseville, California. And I just would also like to support this. I know it's informational only, but if there is something that we can do to make this program whole again, I am in favor of the Roseville City Council doing something to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That does it for our public comment, and we will move on now to item 11.1. Sierra Vista Specific Plan Parcels FD8, FD10, FD21, FD23, CO21, CO22, General Plan Amendment, Specific Plan Amendment, and Development Agreement Amendments.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Bernasconi and council members. My name is Kenny Shallow, Associate Planner, and I'm here tonight to present the JMC TM3 project, which will allow the construction of 613 residential units. The site consists of approximately 115 acres of undeveloped land in the western portion of the Sierra Vista Specific Plan, which is generally north of Vista Grande Boulevard, west of Market Street, and east of Santucci Boulevard. There are new subdivisions that are currently under construction to the west of the project area. Next slide. So the project request includes a general plan and specific plan amendment to transfer units among the 6 large lot parcels that were shown on the previous slide, and to amend the land use designation of parcel FD10 from low density to medium density residential. 2 development agreements will be amended to reflect the land use change and unit transfers. And then the project also included 4 tentative subdivision maps, a major grading plan, and a design review permit for a residential subdivision that were approved by the Planning Commission on February 25th of this year. Further discussion on those entitlements is included with the council communication. The general plan and specific plan amendment will transfer units among the large lot parcels listed in this table. Each of the parcels has a zoning designation of small lot residential with the development standards overlay, which will remain unchanged. As a result of the unit transfers, the land use for parcel FD10 will be changed from LDR to MDR, but the overall total number of parcels for this area will remain the same. Staff determined the proposed land use amendment and unit transfers will have no impacts to planned infrastructure, roadways, or other public facilities beyond what was anticipated for the area. The project also includes a minor revision to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan to identify 2 new gated subdivisions for parcels FD10 and FD23. This brings some benefits for the city's Public Works Department in terms of maintenance of drainage lines, roadways, and lighting. Consistent with the specific plan requirements, the gating of these parcels will not preclude adequate through access for pedestrians, cyclists, or automobiles. The project includes a first amendment to the Moria Investments LLC DA and a 4th amendment of the West Park Federico DA. The DAs will be amended to reflect the proposed land use change and unit transfers. As requested by environmental utility staff, the West Park DA will be amended to revise obligations relating to construction of groundwater wells and recycled water facilities, and it also includes minor changes to language on monitoring of water supply and water conservation goals to be consistent with other DAs in the plan area. In conclusion, staff finds the proposed land use change and unit transfers are consistent with citywide policy, and the project is consistent with the goals, policies, and standards of the zoning ordinance, general plan, and the Sierra Vista Specific Plan. An addendum to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan EIR was prepared, and it determined there are no new significant impacts. At this time, staff recommends the City Council take the actions listed on this slide, approving the project entitlements. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay. I will open the public hearing first. Is that right, Bob? Okay. So open the public hearing. And does the council have any questions?
I did have one, Mayor. You mentioned gated communities. Would you go over, you mentioned something about like engineering or planning, and there was something about the gated areas. Your presentation, I just didn't hear that right.
Oh, so as far as being consistent with the specific plan requirements?
Or anything else?
I think, I had a question on that.
The connectivity?
Yeah.
Yes, so when gating a subdivision, the specific plan requires that it doesn't preclude adequate through access for the surrounding uses. So in this case, the surrounding uses would include like the park, and there's a school site to the east of one of the parcels. And so there would be public sidewalks and roadways that would be accessible for all people traveling to those uses. So the subdivision wouldn't prohibit access to those sites is basically what
there's no opening, or is there any opening in the gated communities on,
yeah,
the
so
side
they
for
have
bikes
access to the surrounding uses, yeah. So there would be sidewalks.
Okay. So
Does
if
that
you-
answer your
if you
question?
were if you were on the outside, you could go on the bike and go in that.
Yeah, so FD23 has a bike trail to the north of it that would remain accessible by the public, by the surrounding sidewalks.
Okay, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, so there will be bike lanes available.
That it doesn't bar the public from being able to do some of those things there.
Right.
Thank you for going over that.
Any other comments, questions?
You go first.
So on that very same topic, I think I heard you say there was some, let me figure out how to say this. When you have a gated community, they become private streets, right?
Correct.
And there's some savings, and I think that's what you were saying, is there's some savings for maintenance and engineering as associated with that. Is that, did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. That was the aspect of the gated community I wanted to highlight, so thank you.
So 2 clarification questions. I think the answer is yes on these, but I just want to verify. It is true. Is it true that we are not going to lose any affordable housing in this swap, correct?
Correct. These parcels before you tonight are not designated affordable, so there's no effect to affordable housing.
Right. And the second element is we don't have any existing houses that are bordering this to where a neighbor is going to say, hey, I moved here because I thought that was going to be something that it's now not, right?
Correct.
There's vacant around there?
Yes, it's vacant immediately surrounding.
Then a curiosity, there's 16,000 cubic feet of dirt that's going to get moved to the temporarily moved to a park site north of this. Does that have any neighborhoods right around it?
I believe.
How long does that dirt sit there? And
I believe there aren't any. Let's see. So that, so that's going to be stockpiled temporarily on FD8, and so that doesn't border any existing subdivisions.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's no other questions of the council at this time, I'll open it up for public comment. And I believe that we have one person on the phone. Phone number to call in to comment on this item, 916-774-5353.
Good evening. If you'd state your name, you may make your comments now.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Chad Roberts on behalf of the applicant. I apologize. I'm on a little bit of a delay here and listening on my phone as well as the computer. So if there are any questions for me that Kenny didn't address, I'm happy to answer them. What I did hear Kenny address was we agree with. Appreciate those responses. I want to thank Kenny and staff for all their hard work in getting this project before you this evening. And again, if you have additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I want to thank you for your time as always and respectfully request you adopt the staff recommendations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Any other calls? No? Okay. We'll close public comment. Does the council have any other comments or questions?
I just had one. Back to the gated communities. Where are the other nearest gated communities?
Let me pull up the exhibit.
Are they in this, in the whole other project, or are these just 2 new added
So
ones?
these are just the 2 that are being added as part of this project, and then the Sierra Vista plan has other gated subdivisions identified already. That's surrounding these subdivisions. So,
Thank you.
Okay, I will close public comment. And when I have a motion?
The motion is to consider the fourth addendum to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report, to adopt resolution number 21-125, amending the general plan to change the land use designations on certain real property in the city of Roseville, to adopt resolution 21-126, amending the Sierra Vista Specific Plan, and adopt the 5 findings of fact and introduce for first reading an ordinance of the Council of the City of Roseville adopting a First Amendment of the development agreement by and between the City of Roseville and Moyer Investments, LLC, the Moyer Agreement relative to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan, and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the City of Roseville, to adopt the 5 findings of fact and introduce for first reading an ordinance of the Council of the City of Roseville adopting a Fourth Amendment of the development agreement by and between the City of Roseville, Moyer Investments, LLC, and John Moyer Construction, Incorporated, the West Park Federico Agreement relative to the Sierra Vista Specific Plan, and authorizing the city manager to execute it on behalf of the City of Roseville. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Mayor Haddashelt.
Yes.
Councilmember Albert.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
And Mayor Bernasconi.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kenny. Okay, we will move on. We will have our last public comment of the evening. So this gives anyone an opportunity to call in or approach the podium on any item that is not on the agenda. The phone number to call in is 916-774-5353. And I'm getting the nod that we don't have anybody on the phone. I'll give it just a few more seconds. Okay, we'll close public comment, and we will start with council reports. And I know our city manager maybe want to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. I do have a short report. I received a few questions walking into the chambers this evening, and obviously yesterday as well, as a result of the announcement made by the governor regarding the changes to COVID-19, which is hot off the presses. And I'd like to thank Kathleen Crawford for her call. As this council knows, we regularly report on COVID-19 and updates. Anytime there's changes, and even sometimes when there's not, to provide that update. I would like to start by referencing a letter that staff sent at the direction of the City Council from the mayor on behalf of the City Council, pointing out something that Ms. Crawford brought up, that we, although 2 of our metrics, being the positivity rate and the health quality metric, are both solidly in the orange, our case rate still happens to be in the red. And it has been a little bit frustrating for the county and for the city, and we had great discussion about that at the last council meeting. And so at your direction, we did send a letter to Governor Newsom, to the governor's office, and also to the state health department, referencing the challenging fact that the positive vaccination rate we have in Placer County isn't being considered. The fact that people who feel well aren't getting tested, and so anytime there's a small flare-up or we get additional cases, it has a really large impact on the case rate. And so that's been keeping our case rate up, and at the letter referenced the fact that this is a problem. This is a problem for our county, and we would like some consideration moving forward. Now, is it a coincidence that it changed the next day? I don't know. I'd like to think that your letter had some influence in that change. But it points out the fact that this is a challenge. It's a challenge for Placer County, and I put some numbers together I'd share. But before I did that, I did want to reference the letter, share the letter, and because it really did nicely highlight some of the challenges we're finding later in this pandemic with the metrics being used. And I think the wisdom and guidance that came from that letter certainly did help highlight the challenges we're having. So late yesterday morning, Governor Newsom did announce that the state aims to fully reopen by June 15th, that will continue to require masking and encourage all of those to receive a vaccination. The state will monitor hospitalization rates, vaccine access and vaccine efficiency against variants with the option to revisit June 15th if it's needed. The primary elements of that announcement were California recently surpassed a major milestone in the fight against COVID-19 by administering more than 20 million vaccine doses, including 4 million in the state's most hard-hit areas. With hospitalization rates continuing to steadily decline, the governor outlined the state's next steps in COVID-19 and the pandemic recovery and moving beyond the blueprint for a safer economy. And now locally, Placer County is approximately 90,000 residents totally vaccinated, and then another 226 total doses administered, making Placer County one of the strongest examples of vaccinated residents in the county. We're certainly one of the state's top performers when you look at our per capita doses. Now, on June 15th, we'll fully open the economy if two criteria are met. Equitable vaccine availability, if vaccine supply is sufficient for Californians 16 years or older who live among who are among fully vaccinated individuals are low, and that's hospitalizations are low. And again, to point that out, that's among those who are vaccinated. So it's a test to make sure the vaccine's working is what will be monitored. That it's consistently low burden of disease, hospitalizations are stable and low, and I think that one of the things is we look at that, our hospitalization rates continue to trend down here in Placer County, and so it's following the state as it's trending down as well. I should add that we will remain in the current tiered system till June 15th. 2021. As of today, Placer, as mentioned earlier, does remain in the red tier. And that was one of the reasons we didn't provide weren't going to provide an update, because as of yesterday, we weren't aware of any changes that were coming our way. And so, as you can imagine, we're still working through the changes in this announcements with the California Department of Health, in addition to working with Placer County Health and Human Services to really fully realize what those changes mean, not only for us as an organization, but also our business community and our community and residents. So we're going to continue to pour through this information, working with Placer County Health to identify what those changes mean, how soon they can be implemented, and what guidelines still remain. Because even with the guidelines releasing, as an organization, we still have Cal OSHA that we have to work through, the CDC guidelines. And so how do those impact our ability to operate and operate as an organization with our employees, but then what's it mean for our businesses and our community and our residents? So we'll continue to pour through that information, and we'll certainly have a more robust update at our next council meeting about what these changes mean. With that, I will turn it back over to you, Mayor, for any questions.
All right. Thank you. Okay, we'll start with council comments. Do you want to start us off, Councilmember Rakucci?
Sure. Can I ask Dominic some questions on the COVID? I just, I think it's just kind of frustrating that this is April 7th and we're looking at, June 15th. It's, I'm looking to see what am I doing at the end of the month? And I guess we still will be, but it's just going to be slow. I'm just going to ask a couple questions that I've mentioned to you, Dominic, and I'm sure the rest of the council have gotten this on their emails, and just a clarification, and you did some of it, and so it's just a clarification. And I know that people have gotten a lot of the vaccines. My husband and I have been vaccinated, but vaccinations are not mandatory. You have choices that, if you'd like to have it, they're here. I live real close to a Walgreens, and the lines are full. I mean, so people are really taking advantage, and I think that's good. But I think living in our free society, you get a choice. And there has not been anything that I've heard or said that's going to make any changes, as we know. And the reason I'm saying this is because I do get emails and questions. And this is an opportunity to be able to say it. Also, the question right now about whether you need for your passports if you have to be vaccinated. Right now, no, but we don't know anything. And who makes that decision? Will that be at the federal level or county, or do we even know that kind of stuff?
At this point, we really don't know. I mean, the city attorney and I had a very good discussion about this morning about what's accessible, what can you really ask, what can you enforce, and this is one of the reasons that it's a challenge right now to even share what came in the announcement yesterday, because for one example, if you want to have an event over 5,000 then you have to prove that you're vaccinated or prove a testing has occurred. This is going to be a real challenge. And so it's issues like that, Councilwoman Rakucci, that we're going to have to work through at the federal, state, and county level.
Okay. Thank you, Dominic. As far as what I've been doing lately, I'm on the committee with Northern California Power Agency on their legislative and regulatory committee. It's one thing that's been fun with Zoom. A lot of things aren't fun with Zoom, but they've then meet some of the local representatives on different committees on the state and federal level. So we've had our L&R group with about 8 of us, and staff has access to people that we normally, we would have, but we'd be in a room and maybe have 5 or 10 minutes with them, where you have like an hour and talk to them and listen to what's the latest that's happening in their department and questions that we have and how it affects the electric utility. So it's been pretty good and quite interesting, and where you got to have more of a one-on-one people. So that's been real helpful. Also, I'm on West Placer Waste Management Authority, and that's really our regional landfill. And that landfill's been there for around 20 years, and they're looking now at different operational proposals for next step, and that includes even the person who runs it now. So it'll be coming to our board tomorrow. There's 4 who've applied, and kind of see where that group goes to the next 2 and go to another phase, and to see what are possible options here that we're going to look at the landfill. So it's pretty interesting, and the changes of the landfill and how to make it environmentally even more the ability to be able to take like green waste and maybe and have different uses for it. So it's I know when I say it's the landfill, it's probably not the most exciting thing, but it actually is pretty cool, and a lot of good people there trying to make sure that we have a landfill into the future. Because that's, as much as, you go, hey, do you want a landfill? You better if you're a city or a county, because what are you going to do? And it also gives us the opportunity of, Mayor Brisconi and I have had this talk before, there's making people aware that if you're going to go to the dumps, sometimes you don't have to go to the dumps. Sometimes you have a lot of good things that could be going to different nonprofits and giveaways that have good use. So trying to use our resources wisely and for the most benefit for our community. And not everything has to go to the dumps. It actually could be used and repurposed again. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I've been at the dump. It's like,
I need a dump run.
You need a dump run.
When you say it, it's good. When I say it, it might sound, negative. So. I don't have any report outs from my auxiliary council assignments for this week. Just a reminder, weather's going to be good next week, maybe even the 2 weeks. And I would encourage our residents to take advantage of our bikeways and trailways and our beautiful parks. If you haven't checked out our trails, you can find the locations and just where and what you can do in various parts of Roseville, specific to our bike and trailway. So I would encourage everyone to get out there, get some fresh air, and learn some new places in Roseville. And as always, please continue to support our local businesses here as we continue to come out of COVID. It's still as important now as it was a week ago and a year ago. So they need you, and I'm sure they'll all be happy to see you. And we certainly could use all of you out there supporting those businesses. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Haldeshot?
Scott, you want to go first?
Whoever you want.
Well, Dom, thanks for that update, and thanks for the getting the letter into the governor. I mean, I will be glad when part of my daily routine is not looking at the case rate number or the vaccination number And as you said, I looked today, 76% of those 50 and to 65 are vaccinated. 76% of those 65 and up are vaccinated. And I imagine now that they've opened it up to the other age groups. I'm sorry, I misspoke on those categories. Now with 50 and up opening up, I imagine that group will begin to rival the percentage of those vaccinated. I'm probably February 19th, I was fully vaccinated, fully immunized. I had my second Moderna on February 9th. So, we don't need to get 100% vaccination. And Placer County has consistently been in the top 15. That's the top third of the 58 counties. We were at 14 today with about 56,000 per 100,000 who had been vaccinated. So, that rivals San Mateo and some of the major urban areas. And that's a good number. And that should be recognized going forward. I hope that that there's emphasis on the testing, because I believe it was last May when the Noshery opened up. And you could take not just a Noshery, but here you could take a temperature gun and you could check someone's temperature. I know mass transportation, airports have the way without you presenting COVID identification or vaccination, that they can take your temperature, and they can set you aside. So there's other methods to get there without a COVID passport. So I hope that that's recognized, and the progress and the diligence that everyone is paying to this is recognized going forward. So thanks for providing that update. It is a little frustrating that we are solidly in the orange in two of the metrics, but because of the case rate, we remain in the red. And when we hit the 4 million in the underserved community, the number of cases changed, and for a brief moment, we were in orange in all three of them. But 123 cases came in last week, and not all of them were for that week. So I'm assured that got smoothed out and not factored into the case rate number, and why we're higher than even with that. We're all busy. I happened to notice today as I was driving down Baseline, going to the office, there's an awful lot of widening going on between Fitiment and the city boundary there on both sides of Baseline. So I should have gone down Baseline sooner, so I would have seen it sooner. But that's progress. And part of the challenge with housing, I think three of us were on the Planning Commission when a project in our historic Old Town first came to us, and then was appealed to the City Council, and then was and went back and was appealed. Litigation is a big barrier to workforce housing and affordable housing. This particular project, which our city attorney and our new city attorney diligently defended the decisions, the well-thought-out decisions of our Planning Commission and our City Council, but that didn't prevent litigants from delaying that, and I believe that's now completely through the process. I think the key thing, and we heard this earlier tonight in public comment, is that project is near the third track. That's a transportation, alternative transportation that can provide, other than getting in your single occupancy vehicle. and that's along the Capitol Corridor, which I'm pleased to sit on along with the PCTPA. But if you want to ensure that there's a diversity of housing type, and for those, and including those that are in workforce housing, as we heard tonight, stand up and speak up about the litigation that is delaying that type of housing from occurring. So, and I think the last thing I want to say is that I'm glad we locked down our new city attorney tonight, because I did see in the Oregonian that the first Shake Shack will be opening in Oregon soon. So I know that our new city attorney has a love for burgers. Five Guys, Shake Shack, anything. So congratulations, Michelle, again. So that's it. Thank you, Mayor Bernasconi.
Councilmember Alvin.
I wanted to, we get a consent calendar and our agenda, and it's a big chunk of our packet every 2 weeks. And there was several resolutions this time that we didn't talk about. And I just wanted to mention that there were 4 people who retired, and they were listed in there with resolutions. And we have people that retire younger years, but David Frederick, 21 years, Curtis Gauthier, 25 years, Audrey Burns, 28 years, and David Allen, 30 years. That's 104 years of institutional knowledge that is gone out of our city. And I know that our department directors are wrestling with this all the time. We have so much depth of knowledge, and there's like all the experts are all around the same age, and we've been losing them for several years, and we got several more coming up that are going to be sad. But I know this is a big challenge for our staff, and I just wanted to point that out. We're just losing a lot of great knowledge to retirement, to older age, and on to living life without work. So. Thank those 4 for their service, and the many others that are retiring. And Dom, you and your staff, I know, really are challenged to try to backfill and get people trained up quickly before the silver hairs retire. So the other thing is we've had a pretty good gap. This is one of our longer gaps in between council meetings, the way the month laid out. And so there's been a lot of stuff going on. I think all of us, or just about all of us, it will be done soon. I had to go through online security trainings. A weak link in the city is our login ourselves, and it's really interesting. I know our city website gets hit all the time. My company manages some websites, and we're hit dozens of times a day, and I know our city site is just astronomical, and we are all potentially weak links. So I'm glad that the city is making us go through it too. I got to attend a social media and First Amendment training. It was really interesting for city and electeds. And there was several of us went on the North Hayden Bridge. We don't usually celebrate infrastructure projects, but this bridge happened to connect 2 big neighborhoods, and it allowed our public safety to get back and forth really fast instead of go around the long way. And it was kind of neat. A lot of community members showed up for a car parade over the bridge. On the 31st, I got to attend, there's a park going to get built in my neighborhood several blocks away from my house, but I got online on a virtual planning session with a bunch of my neighbors, and they've been designing the park. And I know one of the parents there, and she has a young daughter who submitted a drawing for the park and was super excited about being part of it. And it was just kind of fun to be there with neighbors and helping design the park that's going to be in front of their houses. And so I just want to thank our staff for doing that, allowing the community to be part of that. It was pretty neat. And then we also, our county supervisor, Bonnie Gore, who has the western side of the city in her district, she held this really big, there was like well over 500 attendees online, a Western Placer Development and Construction meeting. And I had a small part. I got to introduce our staff. And I tell you, Greg and Mike and Jason, they're really great assets to our city. And for them to present, and I really appreciated the way they did it and explain, that the growth in the city has been planned long before any of us were up here. Well, maybe not Pauline, but Pauline's been here for a while.
Some that was before me too.
Right. But it was planned ahead of time, and it's just carrying out, and we still have 10 to 15 years more growth. And so I appreciate them laying that out and explaining, why things lag and why it takes time to connect stuff. And it was just, it was a proud moment, I think, just knowing that we've got some really neat experts that helped our community understand better, which gives them a better comfort level, and I think a lot of appreciation for the work that goes into our city. So that's all I have to share.
Okay, and my comments are brief this evening. I also wanted to acknowledge the 4, in particular, retirees that we had tonight. But Sonia, you let Audrey know that she just slipped out the back door. And I am really thankful that the support that she's given to the council. She's part of your team and has more than 20 years. So as Scott said, we had 100 years of experience, city experience, walk out the door. But I don't know the other 3 gentlemen, but I know Audrey, and I just wanted to wish her all the best if you can convey that. And it has been a very busy 3 weeks since we have met. Have had many committee meetings, but one of the things that is particularly of note is the Rotary Group, which I know you tuned in on their Facebook Live, but our local Rotary Group met, I think, for the 2nd time in person in a year last week. And they had a full house, and I was able to share with them some of the things that we are working on and what our goals are and our priorities, and they were happy to hear the update. And lastly, I hope that my colleagues have saved May 7th for the Mayor's Cup. It's a Friday afternoon at a Wood Creek Golf Club, and of note is the proceeds will go to our youth programs, which we spoke about tonight. So I hope to see the community and my colleagues and staff out there. And I would probably need a motion to adjourn. We meet again 2 weeks. That brings us to April 21st at 6 p.m. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.